All right. Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining today's webinar. Super excited about today's topic where we're going to be talking about recruitment marketing strategies for 2023 and specifically how you can leverage social media for your recruitment marketing strategies in the next coming year. So a couple of things, one of the main things that I want to convey during this webinar is how you can leverage social media, not just as an employer brand strategy, but really how you can leverage these channels to increase your applicant flow with qualified candidates. So that's really the core of what I want to talk about, how to use platforms like Facebook, Instagram, to increase your applicant flow for qualified candidates in the coming year. So really want to dig into the information that can help you guide you with your strategies with social media for 2023. So my name is Sam Byler. I am the CEO and co-founder of BoostPoint. BoostPoint, we are a recruitment marketing platform helping organizations leverage social media channels to help fill their open positions. One thing I want to talk about at the end of this webinar that I'm really excited about is TikTok. TikTok's a newer social media platform that a lot of buzz right now around TikTok, and I get a lot of questions of, hey, is this something that we should incorporate in our social media strategies for recruitment in 2023? I'm going to share some data at the end of this webinar to hopefully inform some strategies around that. So super excited about talking about that at the end. Q&A is going to be open during the whole webinar. There should be a Q&A button on your Zoom link there, so feel free to contribute to that throughout the webinar. If we have enough of time, we'll dive into answering some of those questions at the end. All right, so let's dig into the topic here. So first of all, I want to talk about why social media around recruitment marketing. There's a lot of different things that you can do around advertising and marketing. I want to talk about why social media is important. So I'm going to start with looking at that one thing of like, hey, how do we source qualified candidates for our open positions? Ultimately, that's one of the main triggers that we need to pull on to fill our open jobs. So where do we find qualified candidates for our open positions? So historically, the last 10 years, the biggest channels that companies have leveraged are online job boards, job boards like LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Craigslist, that are you're getting in front of people that are actively searching for open positions. The reality, though, is that 73% of the candidate pool are considered passive candidates. So people that are not yet actively searching for a new position. That's 73% of the total candidate pool. So if you're only leveraging platforms like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, online job boards, your website, you're really only getting in front of a small percentage of the total, candidate pool. So that's why, then the big question is like, okay, how do we tap into passive candidates? That 73% of the candidate pool. And now we need to, consider recruitment marketing strategies. What are the platforms? How do we get our message out there? How do we increase awareness about our employer brand? And what are the best channels to leverage in order to do that? Because there's unlimited ways to advertise your brand. You have traditional media like TV, radio, direct mail, billboards. You have a lot of digital media as well. You've got Google, social media channels like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. The list goes on and on. So, but you can't spread yourself too thin. You really want to find key channels that you can really leverage to get in front of those passive candidates. And really what I look at as far as value is ROI. Where do you get your best return on investment as you think about deploying advertising dollars to fill your candidate pipeline. And so that's really that's the main guide that, the filter that we think through, when we think of channels, is what are the channels that can, where I can spend the least amount of money and get the biggest and highest return. And the big measurement of that is, qualified candidates in your pipeline. And so now I want to dive into, all right, what are the main channels that you can see the biggest success? We've seen, we've done a lot of tests around a lot of different platforms, and currently those platforms are Facebook and Instagram. That's where we've seen the best return on investment when you compare it, to other platforms out there. And the reason why is because these are still the most popular social media channels. So, Facebook, they have, it's over 81% of the North American population has an active Facebook account. A lot of people come to me as say, oh, well, isn't Facebook dead? Isn't Facebook declining? It's not the newest social media channel out there anymore. And some of that is true. Like Facebook's user growth has kind of stalled, but it's stalled at a peak, which is still really, really high, with, again, 81% of the North American population having an active Facebook account. And when you couple that with Instagram, so the Meta platform, Facebook rebranded into Meta over the past year. So Meta owns both Facebook and Instagram. So these platforms kind of go hand in hand. The advertising platform is still kind of managed by, the Facebook advertising platform. So, you advertise on one and you can easily advertise on the other. But anyway, this is where we've seen, the combination of these two platforms is where you can get your best ROI. When you look at what's your cost per applicant, what's your cost per hire, and really calculating that through, the Facebook and Instagram channel versus other channels out there. We see in a lot of types of recruitment marketing, Facebook and Instagram even outperforming online job boards when you look at cost per qualified candidate, cost per hire, outdoing platforms like Indeed and ZipRecruiter as well. So another note here, a quick note that I wanted to kind of put out there before I go into the next deeper topic, which is how to leverage these platforms, is you really want to look at your strategy in two different ways. You have the organic side and the paid side. The majority of the webinar here, we're going to be talking about the paid advertising side of social media. But, there's also the organic side. And I would look at those, they tie together, but it's really a different strategy. Organic, what I mean by that, you might have an employer, a brand, a careers page, a Facebook careers page, or a Facebook career, or an Instagram careers page. And, you're consistently putting out content about your employer brand, on these platforms to continuously stay in front of your audience that's following your page. But that's a bit of a limited reach, especially, in the past 9 months, because one of the changes Facebook made to their platform is you no longer get much reach from their organic job boards. So back again, Facebook used to have a widget on their app, Facebook Jobs, and you could put your open recs on the Facebook platform through that, and you get a lot of organic traction and applicants from that. Back in February of this year, for their own reasons, they took that widget off of their mobile app, so you don't get a whole lot of organic traction when it really comes down to qualified candidates coming through your pipeline. So quickly, you have to look at all right, the paid side, paid media of Facebook. So let's dive into that next. So how do you leverage Facebook and Instagram to increase your candidate pipeline? So for this, I'm going to pull up a slide here. Give me 1 second, and we'll talk about this for a second. All right, so I want to pull this up, looking at the applicant experience. So really, when you're building your candidate and flow and applicant experience, you really want to look at this from the angle of the candidate, of the applicant, versus looking at it from your internal processes. Like, all right, it needs to be efficient for your recruiters, for your TA and HR teams, but predominantly we want to build this applicant experience through the lens of the candidates, that we're looking to guide through the hiring journey to ultimately, work for our organizations. So a couple steps here that I want to touch on. Number one is the ads themselves. So we'll dig into that. Next thing is the conversion method. How are you converting, impressions, people seeing these ads into actual candidates and applicants? And then how are you connecting with these candidates in an efficient way? So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about here in this applicant experience. And all right, now that we understand, we want to tap into, the passive candidate pool. That's those 73% of candidates. And social media is a great way to get in front of that passive candidate pool. All right. Tell me how do we do this most efficiently? And so first thing I want to talk about is the anatomy of a Facebook ad. So as you see here on step one, this is a preview of what a Facebook ad looks like. You're scrolling through your Facebook news feed, every once in a while, it's usually about every 5 to 8 posts, you'll see a sponsored post. And this is a Facebook ad. So this is where you could, target an audience and put your ad in front of the user base of Facebook and Instagram. So the anatomy of this of a Facebook ad is you have the photo, you've got your headline, you've got your ad text, and then you've got your call to action. So that's kind of face level here, like what you see on an ad. And so how the eye kind of follows an ad is, first of all, people will see the image first. So that's what you want to look at, is how do I stop the scroll? Someone's scrolling through Facebook. How do I capture their attention? That's the first thing they're going to see, is the photo or video content that you leverage for your ad. So this is where it's a lot different than an Indeed ad. Indeed is a text-based ad, or a Google ad, it's a text-based ad. Here, you need to have quality imagery, quality videos. The most important thing that I've seen with, deciding what type of assets you're going to use assets with people involved in it. So even this example image here, is an individual in the healthcare space, actually performing their work. So you do that versus maybe, your logo, your brand, or say you're a manufacturing company, your equipment, and things like that. Put faces to your ads. Again, that's usually what captures people's attention, because again, just put yourself in a user's shoes. They're scrolling through Facebook, looking through content of their friends and family. Most times it's images of faces of people. You really want to curate the assets that you're leveraging for your ads similar to that. So that's the image. The next thing people are going to look at is your headline. So the headlines are super important here. We really don't overcomplicate this. So usually here is, all right, if it's a hiring ad, make that extremely noticeable in the headline. Make sure that people know that, hey, we're hiring, maybe the position, maybe you have a sign-on bonus or a pay range, the type of thing maybe that you leverage for your headlines in like an Indeed ad, that can work similar here in Facebook. So there's your headline. Next thing here that I want to talk about is the ad text. So if you capture someone's attention with a photo or video, they read the headline, it's like, all right, that that I would qualify for that type of position, or that's what I'm doing now, just not for this company. Now you want to think about your ad text, and this is extremely important, as you're looking to qualify and inform this audience about your open position. So we don't recommend just copying and pasting your job description here. Here you want to look at, all right, how do I position myself to sell this position, to a viewer? So we have a framework that we work off of for, the ad text that we build. So I'm going to go through this step by step. It's a 9-part framework. I'm going to try to go through it fairly quickly here, so feel free to take notes. But for the ad text portion, you want to look at the hook. You want to have a hook that captures people's attention. An example of this would be like your headline, like, hey, we are hiring so-and-so, laborers at a pay range of $18 to $25 an hour. That will capture people's attention in a recruiting ad. So your hook, next thing you want to talk about is their need. So the need of the individual, instead of starting out, hey, we are so-and-so from so-and-so and we're hiring, talking about your organization, first of all, talk about the need of the individual. So maybe they're looking for a job, that's more meaningful work, for better pay, speak to that. Are you looking for, a career that's more meaningful? That would be an example of how you could speak to that. So talk about their need and then your solution for them. So, talk about the need, the solution. Maybe it's like, hey, we offer competitive pay. We have great benefits. So there you're talking then about, all right, here's our solution to your need. Next, status change. What will their life look like after they are working for your organization? So, thrive in an amazing company culture, and be, go home feeling fulfilled. How will their life change after taking this position in your organization? Next thing is connectedness. How is this relevant to them? Here, we often like to bring in, the location, make sure, hey, we're in Lancaster, PA, that's between Harrisburg and Philadelphia. So, that would be one way that I could bring more relevance to the viewer. Hey, I'm targeting people in the Lancaster region. So I put that in the ad text, just so they know, oh, this is relevant to me because this is a company in my area. Authority is the next thing. Talk about what are things that set you apart from other companies they could be working for. So maybe that's how many years you've been in business, or other things that make you your brand an authority in your space. Social proof is a big one here. So ways you could bring this out is, hey, this is what other people are saying about working for our organization. So maybe you're bringing in a Glassdoor review, or hey, employees rate us, 4 out of 5 stars, for our organization. Next thing, second to last thing here is bold promise. What's that bold promise? Maybe it's something from your core values, something that you promise to each one of your employees. Last thing is next steps. So after they, read through the ad, what's the next steps for them to again, is it apply now, talk to one of our recruiters and get started? Just give them an expectation of what the hiring process actually looks like. So there is our framework for building the ad text. It's super important. Again, if you're putting energy into building recruitment ads, that you're not just throwing something out there, but be thoughtful about what this content is actually like. Content is the X factor as far as actually getting results, out of social media. Is the quality of the content that you're actually putting out there. All right, so that's our 9-part ad copy framework. The next thing I want to talk about is the 3 things that you need for a successful recruitment ad on Facebook. So the first thing is targeting. Second thing is engagement. Third is conversion. So let's talk about the first one there, targeting. How do you get in front of the right people? So Facebook, really they're a data company, above all else. They have a lot of data on their users, and you can leverage that, based on the types of positions that you're recruiting for. All right, what is the persona of this individual? And there's different ways that you can leverage Facebook's targeting algorithms to, all right, say we're doing a 50-mile radius of our location in Lancaster. Let's hone that audience a bit more to the persona that would be most qualified for this type of position. So targeting is one. Second thing is engagement. We talked about that with, the anatomy of the ad, photo, headline, ad text. That's the engagement, that X factor of that will produce results. The last thing I want to talk about here is conversion. Now that you have people's attention, how do you convert them into a qualified candidate. And this is one of those things that's, it may not be the flashiest thing to talk about when you're talking about recruitment advertising, but it's super important. We've done a lot of A/B tests around, leveraging the same audience, the exact same, ad copy and photos and videos with a different conversion method. And the results can be night and day based just on the conversion method. So what we really recommend is leveraging Facebook's internal conversion pages to create a quick apply like experience right within the Facebook and Instagram platform. So what this looks like is, and this is the middle section here of the slide that I have up. So they click on the ad, apply now, and then this form pops up, and it's this quick apply like experience, similar maybe to like to Indeed. So some of their information is already pre-populated, like their name, phone number, and email address, and then maybe there's some main deal breaker questions, qualification questions that you can also ask to get a bit more information about the candidate. So maybe it's, hey, do you have a valid driver's license, or a certification in XYZ? Some of those deal breaker qualifications, that is required for these positions is what you can capture here. But doing that within an internal conversion page embedded within Facebook or Instagram will greatly increase your conversions, versus another way you could do this is they click apply now and you direct them to another URL. Maybe it's the careers page on your website or an online application that you've already built. We've seen just that small thing can greatly create too much friction, add way too much friction in the applicant journey that you won't get any applicants. We've done tests even just with these two methods here. We've seen over 10 times better conversion rates with the same traffic, with the same ad spend, with this quick apply like experience, versus sending somebody, to your careers page or an online application outside of the Facebook and Instagram platform. So that's, again, if you're just looking for brand awareness or, get your employer brand out there, it may not be that big of a deal. But if you're really looking to leverage social media as a source for qualified candidates, you really want to maximize every ad dollar that's spent. And tracking, what's your cost per applicant? How many qualified candidates are you getting for every single ad dollar that is spent? So, all right. So now I want to chat a bit about, how do you then take candidates from social media and convert them into hires? And just gonna stop sharing my screen here. Give me 1 second. All right, so converting candidates into hires from applicants that are coming from social media. So the main thing here is connecting with candidates very quickly. So again, think about someone scrolling through Facebook. They've got something else on their mind. Maybe they're there for entertainment. They see, hey, something that applies to them. Hey, here's a job. Hey, I'm not that satisfied with the current, my current job. Sure, I'll apply now, inquire about the position. If you wait the next day or 2 days later, they may not even remember, and recall, them taking that action. So it's really important to get in front of candidates as soon as possible, based on them applying. So adding some automation is really important here, especially in high volume hiring scenarios where you're a lot of applicants, maybe hiring unskilled labor, things like that in manufacturing or logistics, food service. Automation can save you a lot of time and also really increase your engagement rate with candidates. The research shows here that the odds of connecting with candidates entering the hiring journey, you're 21 times greater connecting with applicants if you connect, if you reach out to them within 5 minutes of them applying versus after 30 minutes of them applying. And a big thing here is the channel and the communication method that you're using here as well. We're seeing text messaging being a really, really good platform to initially connect with candidates after they apply. The reason that we really recommend text messaging, SMS, is because you see a 90% open rate of all. It's 90 to 95% open rate with text message versus email. That's about at 20%, the average open rate of email. Text message has a really, really high reply rate. And then also comparing it to phone call outreach, 87% of people that don't recognize the incoming caller ID from their phone, they're not going to answer it. So that's kind of where things are at right now with communication channels as well. Text messaging is your best channel when you're looking to follow up with candidates after they initially apply, because that's just where people are most engaged. And so here's where you can add some automation to this. What we recommend is maybe it's not the most realistic thing to require your recruiters to within 2 minutes of someone applying for them to reach out because they've got a lot on their plate. Well, here you can plug in some automation with, hey, as soon as someone applies, you can send them a specific text message saying, hey, Danny, thanks so much for applying for our open position. When would be a great time to connect over the phone? So again, you could kind of guide them to that next step automatically. There's a lot of tools out there that you can leverage to create that type of experience. So again, stepping back a little bit, talking about that applicant experience, looking to tailor that to the candidate, tailor that to the applicant, to where, mapping out this journey where, they see your ad on social media, they click on it, they easily apply through a quick apply like experience. And then while they still have their phone in their hand, they're getting a text message from your organization saying, hey, thanks so much for applying for our open position. Let's take it to the next step. So those things just kind of combined is where you'll really see your best conversion rate of your candidates, because ultimately that's what we want. We don't just want to bring in candidates to the pipeline just to say, hey, 100 people applied for this open position. Really, we're looking, hey, how can we fill our open positions and how can we leverage social media? So you really need to think about all of those things, not just sourcing candidates, but also looking at what's your strategy for connecting with these candidates in a timely manner. All right, so that's taking candidates, converting them into hires, a little bit about that. Now I want to get into some of our bonus material here, talk a bit about TikTok and the research and the data that we're seeing around the TikTok platform. So this is a super interesting topic. Again, if I rewind a year ago, I wouldn't have expected myself talking about this early. We've been watching TikTok for a while. And then in middle of this year, we started doing some tests with this platform, specifically for recruitment marketing. And I was actually honestly really surprised with what we found and the performance of the TikTok platform specifically for recruitment marketing. So a couple things to preface here. TikTok right now, they are the fastest growing social media platform. If you rewind, there's a report back in September that was put out on the users that TikTok has generated. So right now they're at 1.5 billion users on their platform. This was a report from September. Rewind that a year before that, 12 months before that, they were only at 1 billion users. So the rate of growth with the TikTok platform is very rapid. The thing that I feel is maybe just as important, or as far as a metric when you look at the TikTok platform, user base is kind of that main thing that how people measure effectiveness or popularity of a platform. But this is an interesting one. That's time on the platform. Like, how engaged are TikTok users versus other platforms. So the average time per day that a user spends on the TikTok platform is a little over 45 minutes. 45 minutes per day is the average time spent. When you look at Facebook, that they're at 30 minutes. Instagram, their average time per user as well is 30 minutes. So not only is TikTok rapidly growing, but their engagement of their users is even better than Facebook and Instagram. Another thing on the audience, TikTok does have a younger audience than Facebook or Instagram. So this really makes it a great place for entry-level jobs with, the primary, their biggest segment as far as users is people between the age of 18 and 29 years old. So that's their biggest audience segment. So, all right, let's talk specifically about recruitment advertising with TikTok. So, and some of the data that we found, and this is the test that we run on the TikTok platform. This is specifically for like entry level positions. But what we've seen is a 6x better cost per applicant with TikTok versus measuring, that from other social media channels. So this was actually a pretty big surprise to me, is like if you're tracking ROI by cost per applicant by qualified candidate, TikTok actually beats other social media channels, which was super interesting to me. And then also another thing might be, well, what's the quality of candidates? So with our data that we're seeing, 83% of candidates were qualified candidates. And that was very similar to other social media channels, that we run recruitment marketing advertising on behalf of. So, the quality of candidates is very similar. It's just you're getting a bit better return on investment through TikTok versus other social media channels. So it's still, super early, this platform. It's maybe not as tried and true as like Facebook and Instagram, but it's definitely a channel that should be on your radar, if you're looking at leveraging social media channels for building your candidate flow in the coming year. I'd say, like, if someone would come to me right now and ask, like, hey, I'm looking to build my employer brand, leverage social media for recruiting in 2023. I'd first advise them to go to Facebook and Instagram. That's kind of the more tried and true method. You'll be successful there. But hey, once you have capacity beyond that, I'd really recommend, looking at TikTok as well. Some of the reasons when you look at, all right, how can you get a 6x better return on investment from TikTok versus other social media platforms? A couple of things there is you have more efficient cost per CPMs, which is cost per 1,000 impressions. That's kind of how you're buying media from these social media channels. It's like, hey, how much does it cost me for 1,000 people to see my ads? And what we've seen on the Facebook platform, you're about at $15 to $17 CPMs, where TikTok, you're more between $10 and $13. So more efficient, basically less competition with other advertisers. Advertising is really a supply and demand thing. You're bidding versus other advertisers. So you have a user base, and hey, how many advertisers are bidding for attention? So you just have, again, less advertisers on TikTok versus other social media channels. So more efficient CPMs. The other thing that I've seen is you have a lot better click-through rate on TikTok versus social media. And again, I think this is just because there's not as many ads on TikTok right now versus, Facebook. About every 5 to 8 posts, you'll see a sponsored ad. So you have a lot higher click rate as well through TikTok. One thing I want to make sure I communicate here, it's not just like, oh, you'll be successful with TikTok. The content is a lot bigger of a variable with TikTok versus other channels. So it's very important to think through the content. So TikTok's a video-based platform. Like, there's no static images that you can use for an ad. And the type of videos you use will determine how successful your ad is, how engaging your ad is. We've done, again, the tests that we've done on this platform, some videos that's more of maybe a promo type of video, a video you'd maybe see on YouTube, explaining maybe a minute or 2-minute video explaining your employer brand. That type of video on TikTok, you'll get very few applicants and very little engagement versus, I don't know if anyone here has a TikTok account. I'm not on it much. I personally don't enjoy the platform a whole lot as a user, but if you scroll through TikTok, you'll quickly see the style of videos that are there. And that's the same type of strategy you need to use when you're building your content for recruitment advertising. So it's all like vertical based videos. Again, people very engaging with people speaking into the camera, usually text on the video somewhere. But again, that's the type of content you really want to mirror what's common on these platforms. And that's how you'll get your best return on investment. Again, I've just seen video content being a lot more of a factor in results, versus some of the other channels where it still matters, maybe just not as much as TikTok. All right, so that is social media advertising recruitment strategies for 2023, and just some of my 2 cents on that as you go into this new year. Hope that was helpful. I'm going to take a second right now and go through some of the Q&A. I think we have a couple questions here. Feel free if you have any specific questions. I'm going to hang out for another couple minutes and just go through answering any questions. So feel free to pencil in any questions there in the Q&A. So I'll just go through some of these right now. All right, so I have a question. This was earlier on in the webinar. What about the younger population that is not on Facebook? Great question here. Instagram comes into play here. So again, you do have more of an aging population on Facebook. You do still have a good segment. I looked at the age metrics again on all social media channels the other day. I can't think of what they were specifically, but I will say I was surprised at how Facebook still does have a good portion of the younger audience, like the 18 to 29-year-olds. The most used, I actually talked with someone from Facebook a month or 2 ago. The most used widget within Facebook in the younger audience is Marketplace. So that's kind of what keeps the younger audience on Facebook is their Marketplace widget. But again, if you're looking at, hey, how do we really tap into a younger audience? I'd really, guide you towards TikTok because that's, the user base there. Another question I have here. Okay, great question. The industries for the TikTok statistics. This was specifically in the healthcare space, looking at unskilled nursing. That was the specific metrics that I was, that I pulled from TikTok. But with other reports that we've seen, from Facebook and stuff like that, we've seen industries, manufacturing, logistics, anything that is, doesn't take a whole lot of qualification, those types of jobs, you see very similar metrics. So it's not as much as the industry as it is the qualification criteria of the candidates that you're looking for. Another question here is, can we send the recording of this webinar? Yes, you'll get an email either sometime today or tomorrow with a recording of this webinar. Another question I have here is statistics for the older age groups on TikTok, such as the 30 and 50-year-old range. I don't have those metrics right in front of me right now. There is a report that I can maybe send in the email of the recording where I was pulling the audience metrics that will have that. I just don't know those off the top of my head. Gonna look through a couple other questions here. All right, here's a really good question. So why would you advise an employer looking to recruit using social media to start with Instagram and Facebook when TikTok has better ROI? So getting inside my mind a little bit here is I'll look at Facebook and Instagram as a little bit more of, if you're looking for the surest results, you're going to be, it's a little bit easier to be successful on Facebook and Instagram than it is TikTok. So TikTok is just a little bit higher risk, higher reward. So if that's the style you want to go after and you're willing to take a little bit higher risk for potentially a higher reward, hey, TikTok might be that platform. But if you're looking for more of a safe play, dipping into social media, you'll see more sure results with Facebook and Instagram. Again, the main thing here is the type of content. Like I haven't seen many employers, do well with building content for TikTok, but if you're super good at building engaging videos, hey, go for it with TikTok, but it's a little bit more higher risk, higher reward. A couple other questions here. Give me 1 second. All right. Do you see the same return on text tools with professional titles as you do with more high volume candidate population? So there's a great question here. So part of our platform, BoostPoint, the BoostPoint platform. So we're a platform that helps you advertise on social media, but we do also have a text messaging tool built in with our platform. So automatically replying to candidates as they're coming into your pipeline. And we've seen here text messaging really work across the board. The way you'll tailor it, though, will be a little bit different for your high volume candidates versus your professional titles. But we've seen really, really good success leveraging it for both professional titles as well as high volume candidates. Gonna get through another couple questions here. All right, so here a question: are recruiters posting these roles on social media from a company account, or are recruiters creating corporate profiles for themselves? So what we recommend here is running your ads on behalf of a corporate page. Say again, this could be your main branded page, or you create a careers profile, careers Facebook page, maybe for your brand. That's usually what we recommend there versus recruiters, creating profiles like that. That's the strategy for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. If you're talking LinkedIn, though, I really didn't talk about LinkedIn. That would be a whole webinar in itself. If you're talking about LinkedIn, you'll see better success with recruiters reaching out on behalf of their own personal profiles. How much are the ads on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok on average? So this kind of depends what you're looking at as far as cost. Really, what you're paying for, for on these platforms is ad space, so impressions. So your cost per 1,000 impressions, again, between the $10 and $25 range, as far as $10 for 1,000 impressions. That's one way to measure the costs on these platforms. For recruiting teams, I often like to translate that more into cost per applicant, and then maybe cost per hire as well. And so if you understand how much money you're spending, in 30 days and how many candidates you got from that, you can really start to build, reports that's more looking at cost per applicant, versus just more vanity-like metrics with impressions and clicks. Like impressions and clicks, those are important, but really what matters is, hey, what's my, cost per applicant? Cost per applicant, that will range a lot from the type of position and also the geography. I mean, again, some positions it'll be sub $1, some will be, over $50 per applicant, just depending on what type of position and the geography and the population. Another question here: are there other new or upcoming social media platforms that are showing promise? that are outperforming Meta. Again, this is where I'll go to TikTok. They're the ones that you should be, top of your radar if you're looking at new platforms. There's a ton of social media platforms out there. There's Snapchat, there's LinkedIn, Twitter, all these other platforms. Those, again, we're just not seeing as higher return on investment, so not super high on our radar. But TikTok is really that new up and coming platform that you should be looking at over the next 12 to 24 months. LinkedIn. So we will dive into LinkedIn a little bit here. This is one of the questions. One of the last questions here is, what about LinkedIn? Is it still a good hiring tool, or is Facebook and Instagram much better? It really comes down to the way you want to leverage these platforms. So from a strict advertising tool, I haven't seen LinkedIn be that ROI positive. So the main way I see success with LinkedIn is leveraging it as a way to identify candidates that could be a good fit for your open positions. So it's more looking at, hey, proactively reaching out. So having recruiters LinkedIn profile that they can search. It's a great database for searching, for candidates. Hey, 50-mile radius, people, a software engineer within a 50-mile radius of this specific area, you can start to build prospects and reach out to them on LinkedIn. That's really how I'd recommend you leverage LinkedIn, and not as high, don't leverage it as much as an advertising platform, but more of a database that you can search for candidates. All right, I think that is the last of our questions here. For everyone that's still listening here on the webinar, thanks so much for your time today. We really enjoyed the engagement here. If you do, a quick plug on BoostPoint, my company. So BoostPoint is a recruiting platform that helps you advertise on social media channels. This is what we do every day. If you want any information on that, I just send you to our website, boostpoint.com. Anyone that also maybe wants to reach out with any questions for me directly, I'll put my email address out there. Feel free to reach out. It's Sam, S-A-M, at boostpoint.com. Feel free to reach out to me directly as well. All right, everybody, thanks so much for your time, and have a great rest of your week and a great holiday coming up.